Hey everybody, welcome to Figure Feedback. My name is Jeremy, and today I want to talk a little bit about painting our 3D models because that's part of the whole experience. We print these awesome sculptures, these awesome figures, and it's not quite complete until you put some paint on them. Now, the thing about that is, it's a lot easier to print something than it is to paint something. Even though some of us are born with a natural talent to paint things, you start off good and then just get better as you get older and you practice more. But most people, myself included, have no artistic ability whatsoever starting off, and we have to learn as we go along, and we basically start at the very bottom and just try to be somewhat competent. Now, when it comes to these highly detailed models, some of them can be pretty difficult to paint. And that's due to all the different little accessories and details that are on some of these figures. So it requires getting really kind of specific with it and getting different size brushes. And I think at the very beginning, it's best to leave a lot of room for error. So I want to show you a couple of models that I am using to try to get better at the whole painting process, but specifically with an airbrush, because that's what I'm going to be showing you today. So let me show you one of the models here that I've already kind of started on. This was completely gray when I printed it, and then I just sprayed some gray airbrush primer over it because that's the only color that I have. And then I just started to spray an assortment of different color browns on it. And I thought that this would be very appropriate for that because when it comes to wood, I think you can get away with a lot of different variations of brown, because if you go outside and you look at trees, they're usually not just all one color. There's different shades and different tones in trees. So I think that something like this will be able to give you a lot more chances to have happy little accidents and not ruin the entire thing. And that brings me to this second model here, which is Groot. So I got this on printables. He's printed with filament. I'll leave a link in the description to where you can find this guy. And he wasn't very difficult to print out. He did require supports. I used tree supports. I thought that was very fitting for Groot. And it took him about between 10 and 12 hours to print on my Creality Ender 3 Pro. So it's an old printer, it's slower, but hey, it got some pretty darn good results. So I'm going to do the same thing that I kind of did with this print here. I think this is going to be a really good model to practice airbrushing with because it won't require a lot of super fine precision in order to get inside these very, very narrow lines in order to pull off a model that looks relatively decent. And I also think that it's going to help me to practice brush control, being able to have a more steady finger on the trigger, so to speak, and yeah, just kind of have fun with it. Variations of browns all the way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime him gray because again, that's the only thing that I have, and then I think I'm going to put black over him just to have a little bit of darkness in the recesses, and then I'm just going to go wild with different color browns and just see how Groot turns out. So yeah, let's try it out. here is the finished product, and it didn't take me very long to paint this guy, and that was the beauty of selecting this model, because it wasn't about precision necessarily. It wasn't about any kind of complicated color theories or anything. It was really just about getting more comfortable with the airbrush and just kind of exploring the limitations of what the airbrush can do and what I can do as the controller of the airbrush, and then just sort of learning along the way, dropping down some different colors, some earth tones, browns, and a little bit of green at the end to come away with what I think is a acceptable figure. I would give him maybe about a 5 out of 10, you know, little things that can be touched up here and there, possibly with an actual paintbrush, but I just wanted to show the airbrushed product for this particular video. So if you're thinking about getting an airbrush and you want to get some practice in, you're a fan of Groot, I highly suggest you print yourself this particular Groot figure and just go to town. Experiment with blending different colors and figuring out what happens when no paint comes out of your airbrush. How do you deal with clogs? How do you deal with paint being maybe a little bit too thick? It's all a big learning experience, and at least with this figure you can make all kinds of errors like I have, and you can still be pretty happy with the end result. So if you're curious about what kind of airbrush paint I used some that came from Vallejo. It's like a starter set, and most of the colors like earth tone. So we're talking about browns and greens. I think there's a red in there, a yellow, and really, really earthy stuff. And I got it on Amazon. I forget how much I paid for it, but I'll leave a link in the description to that as well. So anyway, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this little video of me airbrushing this Groot here. And if you're interested in airbrushing, I hope you find this as motivation to go out and try. It can be pretty fun, trust me. If you're interested in stuff like this, be sure to subscribe, because I'll be back really soon with another video. The next one, I believe, is going to be about the biggest resin 3D print that I've made so far. So that should be fun. So until then, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.